king 7, king 6 is like, it's in, it's like the new ace 5, in all these solver spots. It's like ace 5 showed up, it's like this, oh my god, it's like my favorite hand right now as well, because ace 5 I feel like I can always go crazy with. And that king 7, king 6, it's just like, wow, solver just loves those fucking hands. What's up, guys? My name is Lex Veltes, and welcome to this third coaching session with the man himself, the human solver, Mr. Jordan Drummond, BBZ himself. We recorded this during WCoop. I use these sessions as warm-up for my high-stakes tournaments, and in this one, we're gonna be discussing something I was lacking massively: 3-betting from the big blind. Defend your big blind tooth and nail. Of course, we want to defend it a lot by calling, but we also want to play back at people, and we want to raise. Now, I wasn't doing it enough, and I sure as hell can promise you, you aren't doing it enough. So in this video, we're going to focus on that aggressive play. Also, make sure you check out these videos, because that's episode 1 and 2. All these episodes are standalone, so you can just watch them as you go, but make sure not to miss them, because there's valuable information there as well. Now, if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.
And it's going to look like, especially to like a casual viewer, it's going to look like this is not a big deal, what you're doing. But you're missing about 40% of your 3-bet bluffs off the big blind. Okay, so you're missing about a third of the big blind 3-bet range overall. And, if we subtract the value bets, it's about 40% of the total bluffs.
Wow.
So you're not bluffing nearly enough relative to what we need to do. And, the same thing could be said to a lesser extent about big blind ISO. So your pre-flop aggression off the big blind is just too low. I think that we want to just take a look at some of the hands that are eligible to be 3-bet. Not that I'm expecting you to use them all or anything, but yeah, just to make sure that you kind of, okay, this is where I can pull from, and these are some of the reasons why, etc.
So yesterday, I know usually what we're talking about, etc. But I always want to go in blank, because I want you, when you ask me a question, right, I want to give the answer that's in my head, why I'm doing it wrong, and give my reasoning for it, instead of like trying to give the good answer and not know why. But I already had an idea of what I was going to miss, so I want to show chat. So I pulled up some charts from in the last few minutes of like big blinds versus button and cutoff 3-betting, and I was like, yeah, because I'm missing a sliver of the queen 10, jack 9, jack 10 offsuit, king 10. I never 3-bet the offsuit combination, and I saw, oh fuck, ace 8, 50% of the time versus the hijack. Like, what the hell? And then I saw. And then I saw something super interesting, but maybe I'll ask that when we get to look at a chart, because I saw some interaction between what do you think is good if I mention my question about the ranges now, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was wondering, if you look at the range for big blind versus button, it is primarily 3-betting from the big blind from the 7x suited block. It is, and then, but versus the cutoff, is primarily 3-betting from the 8x suited block. Is that because you want to 3-bet 1 pip below the bottom of your opponent's value range to be most efficient, and their offsuit cutoff is 8x on the button, 9x on the cutoff?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
You want to make their folds available, right? So yeah, so if when someone defends versus a 3-bet, they fold the bottom of their range. So what they're going to fold. If the bottom of their opening range is offsuit 8s, then you want to be 3-betting with decent hands, but you want to make sure that you make those offsuit 8s available to fold. So you're going to see a lot of density in the suited 7s, suited 6s, offsuit 6, offsuit 5 to a lesser extent, and then it just moves 1 pip higher as you kind of skate over to the cutoff, right?
Wow.
So yeah, that's 100% how it works.
Okay, good, because then if I and other people understand the interaction, then it's easy, because then, I already memorized. Well, I mean, we clearly saw yesterday I don't always memorize it, but I've already memorized that it's offsuited 8s raising on the button and offsuited 9s on the cutoff. So I only have to remember that thing to now also know my 3-bet range from the big blind versus those positions. So it's nice if you understand the interaction, you don't have to learn anything extra.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, that's why when I'm teaching people, when I first start coaching a new student, we spend a lot of time on the pre-flop strategy, because it's a pretty critical detail, and to a lesser extent, you can't play the river well if you don't know your pre-flop range, right? Because you're not going to know which hands to bluff with, or which combos you have available to bluff with across different run out types. So you can't really play very accurately at all if you don't have a really firm understanding of the pre-flop strategies. So yeah, but you're right. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so this is a mix, queen four offsuit. Kind of to the point that you made just a second ago. This is like an example of 50 big blind, but in big blind charts, there's the suited sevens and sixes that Lex was referencing. But we can see like this queen four is not really as much of a mix, but like queen five, queen six, king seven, and we're gonna kind of pay attention to where the hands kind of cluster around. Over here, when you see these offsuit eights and nines, it's you might say, isn't this contradictory? Don't they block the folds? They do, but in No Limit we have a competing concept called board coverage, and we just want to make sure that we don't never ever hit a board with an 8 on it, or never ever hit a board with a 9 on it. So we do have a little bit of these combos, but there's not much density here, and that's just for board coverage reasons. And you'll see that that's pretty consistent throughout. So this is a hand that we could, that at 50 bigs it doesn't 3-bet much, but we can 3-bet it a little bit. How often are you 3-betting a hand like this one?
Never.
Cool. So that's what it looked like based on I ran through this a little bit earlier. This hand's like basically almost
pure,
pretty close to pure. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, pretty close to pure 3-bet. It does mix versus a 4-bet at this stack depth, which is probably why you don't 3-bet it. Is because it feels like if you 3-bet it, when he jams, you don't know what to do, because there's really no right answer. If he jams, you could fold or you could call, and there's neither one of those plays is really wrong. But it's important to handicap the fact that the button will mostly call. Right, he's in position. He's not out of position. So his strategy is dominated by calling, and then he'll 4-bet occasionally. So when you 3-bet this hand, you are going to get called a lot, and you are going to dominate that calling range, right? So this hand mostly 3-bets here. Okay, so this hand's going to come up a lot. This is almost the exact same situation with almost the exact same answer.
And then ace jack we pure call, right, if they jam.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
Yeah, because otherwise this one won't mix, I guess.
Yeah, and then how often are you 3-betting a hand like this here?
I would say I 3-bet. I do 3-bet king 6, king 5, queen 5, queen 6, queen 7, that sort of thing. But queen 3, like 0%. Guaranteed zero. Whoa.
Yeah. So this hand gets much more competitive as we get a little bit shorter. So you see, like if you recall the 50 big blind example, I can show you. It was almost never 3-betting. So this is 50 bigs. It doesn't really 3-bet this hand much. But as we get shorter, the idea of like 3-betting basically like a blocker on a stick starts to get much more compelling. You can't really 3-bet fold suited hands anymore. Yeah, so I don't know. You gotta like come up with some kind of language for it.
Blocker on a stick.
Yeah. So queen 3 offsuit works, but you can see like the 9-6 suited are out now, right? And that's because we're gonna get jammed on more often as we get shorter, and so just 3-betting this blocker becomes a little bit more effective. We're going to get flat a little bit less often as a fraction of their continuing strategy, the shorter we get. So the shorter we get, the more they jam, the less they call. And so it becomes more competitive to 3-bet these types of hands and less competitive to 3-bet these types of hands. Because if they're going to jam, we don't want to 3-bet fold 9-6 suited. Right?
Yeah.
So
okay, that's good. That's a good note to make. Like that. Like don't start going fucking crazy like 30 big blinds deep.
Yeah, and then I think for a lot of people, I think you'll probably be familiar with this idea, but newer players, some of the players that don't study that are in the audience, when you see these hands being utilized here, these are 3-bet calls. They're not 3-bet folds, right? So this is 35 bigs, it's a lot of chips, but these don't fold. So if we go button opens, big blind 3-bets, this other dickhead jams, and we look at like 10-9 suited, 9-8 suited, jack-10 suited, these all call. So these aren't bluffs. So I did say that there are no 3-bet bluffs from the suited side, but then someone might have been like, what about jack 10 suited? I'm like, yeah, that's calling, man. That's calling a jam. So all right, so let's keep going.
Okay. Yeah, somebody I just want to reiterate because it's an important question. Somebody in chat asked, is fine to skip some of these 3-bet bluffs if you know you have trouble playing post with these tougher to play combos, or is it bad reasoning which will cascade more errors? I think it's important again to mention today that you might think to yourself like, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't know how to play after, but we want to learn further down the chain, right? Making a mistake pre-flop is worse than making it on the flop, and eventually you'll get better at playing flops, and then you'll get better at playing turns, and then you'll get better at playing rivers, and finally you know how to play the whole hand. But if you just shut it down pre-flop saying, I don't know how to do the rest of this, I'm not doing it, then you'll forever stay bad at it. So you have to push the mistake further and further and learn. And you're gonna also, if you're already doing a pre-flop right and your opponents aren't, then you're already winning there. And then if you then play the flop correctly and they don't, then you're winning there. And then it doesn't even really matter that you're making still mistakes on the turn. You're being better than more and more people once you get further down the chain. So it's important to do that.
Yeah, I basically agree with everything Lex just said. And yeah, I'll just reiterate that the only real way to learn how to play queen three offsuit post flop in a 3-bet pot is to 3-bet with queen three offsuit. So like if you don't do it, you're not going to learn how to do it. So yeah, which is what Lex said. So yeah, I agree with everything you just said. So this is the same spot, 35 bigs. We're shorter, so because this guy has 35. For people watching, it doesn't matter how many big blinds we have. We're playing to the effective stacks. We're playing to the shortest stack that's involved in the situation. So here we have a 35 big blind open. Pretty much plays the exact same as the previous one, which means this hand's like basically almost like a 50% 3-bet. So 3-bets, a lot. All right, so this one's a fine flat. At this stack depth, ace 6 through ace 8 are good flats. As we get shorter, they become bad flats, right? So 17 big blinds is the threshold at which you no longer flat ace 8. Once you get to 17 bigs, you start jamming all this stuff. Okay. All right, so this is a little bit too short for the queen 4 off. I don't mind not 3-betting there. I think this is too short as well for the 9-8 off.
Wait, 9-8 off is in there as well for 50?
Yeah, I think it's in there as we get a little bit deeper. Yeah, and 9-8 off, it's basically like the same kind of idea where you don't want to 3-bet fold suited hands. So here you can see like where we 3-betting and then calling. Over here with 9-8 off, it's like you're not going to be able to obviously to call a jam with this hand. So this kind of 9-8 offsuit and like 10-6 suited or 9-8 off and 9-6 suited or 9-5 suited. They're pretty similar hands. They have a lot of equity. You don't really want to 3-bet fold these types of hands. You want to be more over here, where it's a little cleaner. So
isn't it actually kind of a fucking miracle that if you look at how many 3-bets I miss, that people actually pay me off and have a good hand? I mean,
yeah, you are missing a lot. Yeah, and it's we talked about it yesterday, where it's like with all the mistakes that we make, like you're still winning, right? You're still winning. So like there's still an opportunity to play and compete and make money. So yeah, this hand I might take a shot with. I like having again especially when we get shorter, when the effective stack gets shorter, the big blind has a harder time mixing offsuit sevens, right? So the shorter that we get, the harder this guy's gonna have. If you had king 7 offsuit, I like jamming that hand at this stack depth, but you obviously don't have king 7 off. So see over here, king 7 generally speaking. It's not jamming that much. King 7 suited jams a lot more.
Yeah, the king 7, the king 7 suited is something that slipped my mind again. The king 7, king 6 is like it's like the new ace 5. In all these solver spots, it's like ace 5 shut up. It's like this. Oh my god, it's like my favorite hand right now as well because ace 5 I feel like I can always go crazy with, and that king 7, king 6. It's just like wow, solver just loves those fucking hands.
Yeah, man. Yeah, again, you're below the offsuit 8, and then you've got like you've got a blocker to a lot of the stronger parts of that king. So it's king 7 is has some miracle properties. It gets utilized a lot. Yeah, like I don't know. You can mix this a little bit. It doesn't get used much.
I will say that what I like. So then you non-all in 3-bet those, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I like about that is like, especially when you get short, the thing that I think I'm struggling with is like, let's say what I primarily use. Let's start with that. What I primarily use to non-all in 3-bet from the big blind is ace X hands. But when a stack depth gets to a point where you're primarily flatting your suited aces, but jamming your offsuit aces, like with 20 big blinds, right? You need some other non-all-in 3-bets to be able to offset your aces, kings, and queens. And I'm not using any of those. So it's like such a light bulb moment for me. Like I don't use any of those when I get that short. But then here I am from the big blind. Oh, I have aces, 6.5 bigs, and they're like, well,
guess you have aces then.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
So we're going to be taking a look today at bet folding the flop. So you c-bet, you get 2-bet, and then you make a fold that we just make a fold. I mean, like we're not really filtered that heavily within bet fold. Let me just see so I can give people a little bit of an idea. We're filtered for like not having total trash. Okay, like I filtered out total trash. So like if you have 2 undercards to the board and no backdoor draw, like if the board's ace king queen, you have 7-6. We're not going to see that. Like that should be filtered out. So we're filtered for having like maybe a slightly decent hand, but. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
And these are great exercises as well, especially because I play higher these weeks than I normally do. So I'm going to be playing versus people that are check raising more competitively and aggressively.
Yeah, and I try to be targeted because it makes the lessons like more like it's nice to pound the same spot over and over again, as opposed like that's how you would learn any other discipline, right? Like if you were playing anything else, you would try to focus on one area and try to fix that one area, as opposed to like going through a hand history from like start to finish and like you see 300 different spots, and it's like, well, it's hard to make the connections, right? So, how do you think about this at the moment here? So you open 20 bigs, big blind flats, roughly 20 effective. You c-bet, which is pretty reasonable, whatever. You're betting a third, then you get 2-bet here. How do you think about this?
I mean, I think versus this side, like if it was any bigger and we'd be slightly deeper, then I would have a club preference here. but we're super short and he min raises. So these are still very wide ranges, right? Like, and he's still gonna have a bluffing range. Like, generally when I see somebody min raise off the stack depth, I instantly think like, oh, they know what they're doing, because that's just like a very competitive answer, right? To have the min raise. So I think that they're also going to be balanced. They're going to have some bluffs, and I would think that getting 6-1 could possibly put this in there. But I would still kind of stick to my club preference. But the nine looks pretty good connected, to my queen jack. So I don't know. I'm up in the air about this. I would still say that I would call with a club and fold without.
Okay, cool. So this is way too tight. At this given this price, like at this SPR, like not the SPR doesn't matter. Given the price, I mean, like given the odds you're getting, this like 2 overcards, not going to be really foldable, I don't think. And I don't think it's going to matter like which 2 overcards we have. So we're going to go here and we're going to edit this down. Just like a click. So we get raised, and you have queen jack. And this hand without a club is worth about 65 big blinds per 100, which is a lot, right? Again, just so it's clear for everyone, our target win rate is 5. We're only trying to win for 5 big blinds per 100. That's the goal. So if we're making mistakes, systematically would be Lex is doing them on purpose, right? He's like, yeah, I thought about it. I want to have a club. Without a club, I'm not calling here. So he's doing it on purpose. So we're trying to find mistakes, that will add up reasonably quickly. And kind of torch our win rate, basically. So yeah, so any 2 overcards here, right? So queen jack, queen 10, king 10. These are all worth a bunch. King jack, king queen. I said that, right? I said anything with 2 overcards is basically unfoldable. Jack 10 doesn't matter. You don't need a club. So,
Funny thing is, I would probably call jack 10 more often than I would call queen jack because of the connectivity to the 9.
Sure.
Does it have more equity, or am I crazy?
Is it worth more money?
Yeah.
So jack 10 with hearts and diamonds is like 66 big blinds per 100. Queen jack with hearts and diamonds is 58, so it's worth more. Yeah, that's
okay.
Your intuition's correct. Jack 10's worth more.
Okay.
They're both worth a bunch, so don't fold.
But don't worry, they're both worth a fuckload. Okay, no, that's clear.
So how do you think about this?
Wait, what's because this looks like a 3-bet pot.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So
yeah. Oh man, again. I mean, I do have to call here. No, oh my god, they're so short. No, I fold. Yeah. No, I fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to this one. So the last one I knew the answer. Last one. So this one's harder. So,
clear fold.
Clear fold. I don't know, but it's close.
I'm doubling down.
Yeah, it is close, but it mostly folds. So you can see like this version, right? Like these, it's not pure fold, right? Like there's a lot of folding. Don't get me wrong, but it's just close. It's just close, and this is a bigger size too. This is a bigger size than the one he used. This is going to 17 bigs, and he went to 16.5.
Okay,
that's close.
Let me ask you something. And I know we hardly ever do this, right? But I think that a lot of people in chat are curious about this. Like we don't talk much about adjustments or exploits, right? We just like what is
Sure.
Because it's also a thing where what we need to learn is the best strategy possible, and it's also up to me to use sort of experience and game sense to adjust certain things, right? But we in the end we want to learn like what's the best strategy. Can I just like I can simplify that versus somebody who I know is not a good player. I can just pure fold, right? Because they're not going to have
without a club. I think it's pretty easy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's because somebody in the chat asked like, does this also work on my stakes or does it also work on low stakes? And I think that's the thing that you can adjust. Like, do you get ace king here without a club and C Darwin is check raising you? Then you're gonna have to think very carefully if you want to be overfolding because he's gonna put the test on you. But if you're playing the big 55 and Joe Rando is check raising you, then you can very comfortably fold without a club every single time. So yes, there is adjustments and yes, it's different, but I do want to say to chat, like, before you can make adjustments, you need to know what good strategy is, because otherwise you're just fucking free flying and you don't know what you're doing. And then you're going to use human instinct again and you're just going to use your bias. So you need to know what solid strategy is before you can even think about deviating from it. That's very important, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I would say that when people play, when they ask the question, like, which is pretty common, does this work in the games that I play? The answer in 98% of cases, or 99%, probably more than 99% of cases, more than 1 in 100. It's less than 1 in 100 that won't apply. But so the vast majority of the time, the answer to that question is just a direct yes. But you should keep in mind that, like, the mistake that lower metagames like lower limits make, or like weaker metagames make. They have a smaller average pot size basically. So they don't check raise enough, they don't 3-bet enough, they don't 4-bet enough, they don't 5-bet enough, they don't overbet the turn enough, they don't overbet the river enough, they don't check raise the turn enough, they don't check raise the river enough. On average, that's what those games look like. They're a little bit too weak tight. So yeah, when you get check raised to a huge size, like on average in a less competitive metagame, the range will be a little bit too strong. So like that's the kind of bias that you can kind of take into that's like a little bit of understanding you can take into that scenario or that question, which is like, does this work at lower limits? Well, the ranges might be a little bit too strong. So like that's the only real caveat I would have.
Yeah.
This looks good. I'd fold too. What do you think about this?
No, yeah, this is like, I think it's a crime to fold this, honestly.
Yeah, this is going to cost like 100 big blinds.
Yeah, this one I can instantly say like this is like stealing from myself. I mean, it's not even it's a fucking ridiculous raise size even.
Yeah, you're getting like way too good of a price. It's really hard to fold stuff because all of your entire range has 2 overcards, right? There's a deuce on the board, right? It's either trips or deuce, and so like your whole range has overcards to deuce. So it's really hard to fold hands against this price. So if he actually has a 5, he could raise bigger, you would still call. So like it's like some people might look at this and say, oh, he's going to get so many calls with a 5. He's like, yeah, but if he goes bigger, he'll still going to get so many calls with a 5. He's just going to make more money. So this sizing is not really all that logical. I don't think it's too small. Yeah, this is like a criminal fold basically. So like I said, probably costs 100 big blinds per 100 there. How do you think about this one?
Well, again, I think I have 2 overs to the 8. I got a really good price, so I just have to call. And also my backdoors are pretty snazzy because I can make backdoor straights.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like a failure on his part in terms of sizing. Right, so this is sort of happening to you at a reasonable clip where your opponents are using too small of a 2-bet size, they're using too small of a check raise size. And they're basically allowing you to navigate a strategy that's like pretty clean in the sense that like if you have an undercard to that 8, that really sucks. And that's because you're going to lose an out, right? You have this player could have a pair of 8s, and if you have Jack 7, you're losing a pretty direct out, which is 3 outs really, on to the next card. But here, like anything with 2 overcards at this price, going to be pretty competitive and pretty difficult to fold. So yeah, I would be pure calling at this SPR. And again, I would expect this to cost at least 60, 70 big blinds per 100 if we looked it up, potentially more. So, oof. What do you think?
Yeah, I just don't think I can ever fold this.
Yeah, this is just fun to show you just because I want to see how much money you just lost. There's a lot of profit. Like we can't fold this hand.
It's good.
So
it's good.
What makes it unfoldable, right? Like we have a pair. We have outs if he's value betting. So if he's got like 2 pair or pocket 8s, which he could flat at the stack depth, right? Then we have a gut shot and an over and the ace, right? And the pair outs. If he's bluffing, we dominate him because a lot of his bluffs may come from like an ace. Obviously, a lot of his bluffs come from a 6 or a 7 as well. Probably makes more sense for them to come from a 7. But when you have a hand that beats your opponent's bluffs, but also can suck out on your opponent's value bets, those characteristics are pretty rare. Like it's right. Like those characteristics are usually pretty rare, where you can suck out on your opponent's value bets and you can beat his bluffs. If you have a hand like that, that's a good hand. Like that's a hand that has really good properties, and you can contrast that with a hand like, I don't know, King 4, where it's just like you have a pair of 4s, which is better than a pair of 3s in an absolute sense, but like not really what we're looking for. This is more of a big bet board, by the way. You should have been betting larger here or checking, but we went with a quarter pot, which
that's good to know because
sure,
that's definitely a mistake. Then I almost small. Is it because of the rarity of their offsuit combinations hitting this board, like 3-4, 4 deuce, whatever, 6 deuce, 5 deuce?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, 3-4 is calling.
Yeah, they have straights, but it's harder. It's harder, and we don't interact with this board, so we're going to be checking a lot. It's going to be really hard for us to have a high frequency bet strategy. So,
is it because our offsuit range struggles to connect?
Yeah, it's because the whole range struggles to connect. Even large parts of the suited part will struggle to connect to this board.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, you'll be opening like suited 5s a lot, which obviously the board has a 5 on it, but you're not going to be opening suited 4s or 3s a lot. So you're going to have a hard time interacting here. All right, and then this is your ace 3 offsuit. It's worth 165 big. These are with a backdoor flush draw. Those are with a backdoor flush draw. It's worth about 30.
Okay.
It's not as bad. It's worth about 30. How do you think about this?
Tough one. I think it might be a call.
I'd sure call this.
Yeah, because just because of the the backdoor capabilities. I need some bad calls here, right? I mean, I think that this flop also checks a reasonable amount. Checks back, right? Because my ace-x doesn't need protection, and there's a asymmetry in who has a more 10x.
Yeah, the reason that we might get to fold this is because we have so many offsuit combos with a draw. So like if we can fold this, my assumption would be that it's because we have so many offsuit combos with the draw, so many queen jacks, king queens, like that helps us get out of this. Oh, and it does. So if the board was like ace 9-9, and we had like queen 10, for example, this would be more obviously a call. The fact that because we would have less straight draws, which would give us clean calls on the flop. So the fact that it's ace 10-10 makes it a little bit more complicated, but I would still call. But I am open to the fact that like there's a reasonable probability that I'm wrong here and that I should just fold. And the other thing is like you have to kind of it's helpful to frame like what a big how do I say this properly? You have like the two scales of judgment, right? On the one hand, you have like I folded too much, and on the other one, you have I called too much, right? Most human players, like which is everyone, most players will like bias or feel more comfortable like if they don't do something that causes them further losses. When I think what you want to do instead is you want to think like, okay, if this is not a call, how much money did I just lose? And if this is a call, how much money did I just lose if I go the other way, right? And I think that like when these spots are really close, if it turns out that it's a fold, it's probably going to cost me like 5 to 6 big blinds per 100. If it's a call, it might cost like 70 or 8, as you've seen, right? Like when they're really close and it's like, oh, you should fold. It's like, how much did we lose? It's a mix. It's worth like 6 big blinds, or it's worth minus 6 big blinds, or it's worth minus 7, or it's worth minus 12. But when we miss like some of these calls, and they're really good calls, like you can lose like 100 or like lose 80. So my bias is actually to like make the mistake of defending too much. All right, so here we go, and we see the check raise to 4. Yeah, we're not even close. 36.
Wow.
So this is kind of my issues. These hands are worth so much money over here, and we have these offsuit combos helping us out. But yeah, we're still like defending tons of trash hands, like queen 7. Which is just queen 6.
Queen 7 can't even make straights. That's absurd.
Yeah. It's a small size. You just can't fold. Can't fold too much.
Hey, let's call it here again. So we have 5 minutes before play starts, and I can do the rundown and stuff.
Awesome, brother. Sounds good, man.
All right, thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, bro.
All right, dude. Good luck, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.